The Lead with Jay Tapper. Today starting at 4 Eastern on CNN.
I think that this is an awful tragedy, but you know, the officers took, on the face of it, reasonable steps to avoid it. Had the individual not grabbed the officer's pistol, certainly we would not be having this discussion.
The chief of police, the LAPD there, reacting to the fatal police-involved shooting of a homeless man in LA. Should police have used deadly force on a man with mental illness? I want to bring in Charles Ramsey, Commissioner of the Philadelphia Police Department and the co-chair of President Obama's task force on 21st century policing. Cedric Alexander is also with us, president of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. He's also a member of the president's task force. And gentlemen, we want to talk about the important work that is coming out and the report that came out of the task force research and study in a moment. But I think we have to begin with this situation, very troubling in Los Angeles. And we know, Cedric, that a big component in this case is mental health. The chief of police there in LA talking about his officers getting some extensive training on dealing with this population. I'm just curious your thoughts on if overall you believe police officers are generally equipped with how to deal with mentally ill people.
Well, it's become clear that LAPD had trained some of its officers in working with people with mental health conditions. I think one thing, Michaela, we don't want to jump ahead of is the fact that in this particular case, involving a person who reportedly had a mental health illness, is that we truly have to wait till all the facts are in before we can really post any judgment as a term to what occurred. And I think that's fair to the community there in LA.
Sure.
It's fair to the gentleman that died and his family, and also to the police officers as well, too. So
I agree.
I think that's
with you.
very important.
I think that is a very important thing, but if it does do anything, Commissioner Ramsey, it does bring about a conversation about policing when mental health components are involved. What kind of procedures are officers given to follow when they encounter a situation like that?
Well, it really raises a larger issue in our country of how we treat the mentally ill, period, and what kind of treatment that they get. I mean, we have officers that have gone through crisis intervention team training, almost 2,500 to date, to be able to recognize people who may be going through some kind of mental health crisis, ways in which you try to de-escalate situations. But we also encounter people that can be very violent, that are also suffering from mental illness. So it's really not it's not easy when a police officer becomes involved. I think that as a country, we need to look at mental health treatment in a much larger context and provide support for people who are suffering from that illness.
I couldn't agree with you more, Commissioner Cedric, and I fully understand that this is a scenario that changes entirely if someone if the suspect is said to reach for the gun. We know the LA Times says the video from the body cam they're reporting is that it is heard from one of the officers saying, "He's got my gun." That changes the whole affair.
Well, certainly it does, because regardless...
Go ahead, Cedric.
Regardless of the amount of training that you may have received, I think it's important, too, that under those particular circumstances that are being reported, and we still have more to learn, that certainly I think we all are reminded of the fact these officers have to protect themselves and protect those that are in and around them that are innocent bystanders as well, too.
Let's pivot to the task force and the work that has been done in the research and what you have found. The task force on 21st century policing, both of you are a part of that. Commissioner Ramsey, and speaking of body cameras, this technology is being widely explored by American police stations and companies and chiefs across the nation, but the report stopped short of fully endorsing it. Why is that? What are the concerns?
Well, we do devote an entire page in the narrative to discuss the issue of body cameras, but we made a decision early on that we would look at the broader issue of technology. Today we're talking about body cameras. Technology advances so quickly. A year from now we'll be talking about something entirely different.
Fair enough.
So we need to really kind of like set the guidelines in terms of how we apply technology, make sure that we have these discussions up front, that we're not infringing upon privacy rights of individuals. I mean, everyone wants body cameras today, but tomorrow when a manufacturer decides to put facial recognition software on that camera, are we still going to feel the same way? I mean, we need to really think about what we're doing, how we're applying technology, not just body cameras, but any kind of technology that we may find useful in policing.
We've only got about 30 seconds, so Cedric, I'm just curious what your thoughts are. And I know this is a bigger conversation, not fair to have it in 30 seconds, but one of the things that the task force was to look at is the state of policing in 2015 and going forward. Have we made any progress since Ferguson, in your estimation?
Well, I think we're in the process of making some real progress, as you've just heard Commissioner Ramsey speak about. When we talk about technology, we talk about body cameras. One other issue we had to take under consideration, and we had a lot of discussion around that as well, too, are some of the legal issues that are associated from one state to another as it relates to body cameras. But I think what we have here is a document that is going to really move us forward in terms of 21st century policing. And I would like to publicly thank Lori Robinson and Commissioner Ramsey, who led the leadership, and it was a great and a pleasure working with them because their experience and their brilliance in and around these issues really helped this task force and help us to move a document forward that I truly think is going to be critically important.
A very important first step. I think we can agree on that. Commissioner Ramsey,
absolutely.
We appreciate it. Cedric Alexander, always a pleasure to have you, gentlemen. Keep up the good work, and we will speak to you again soon, I'm very sure.
Thank you very much.
Chris?
Thank you.
All right, Mick, Jeb Bush is in Vegas, baby, Vegas, and he's trying to get in the